Alright, today we're talking about replacing your Depower Main Line and the 5x8 tubing on the Navigator Pro. So you might want to do this if your tubing was looking a bit suspect or you were worried about the connection points of your Depower Main Line. If you've got reservations, then I would definitely look at getting the spare part. Better to be safe than sorry. We've got all the spare parts at your local shop. If not, check out northkb.com. Alright, so you have your control bar. You want to run your lines out first, and then the first thing you want to do is pull your landing line all the way through until you reach the bottom of your flying line. Now push those two apart and keep on pulling your landing line and your swivel through the loop in the flying line so that comes off. We're going to put that away for later. Okay, so next we've got this little jig that we find a bit easier for servicing the Navigator Pro. Now we'll make these jigs available and we'll put a link at the bottom of the video if you want to download them and 3D print them off. They're not completely necessary, but it just makes it a bit easier. So I'm going to use this drift tool just to push the pin out. So there are some little dimples which help a tool kind of stay in there and not move around too much. Just push both sides until it pops out. So that's your little pin, and then the QR assembly is going to pull apart. So we can put the QR over there and the pin. So now we're going to look at taking this Depower Main Line and tubing off. So you can just pry the end of the Depower Main Line off its little seat here and then feed it over the flying line. Now you can remove that Depower Main Line, pull it through the bar and then pull on the bottom of the trim line to pull that line all the way out. Now that tubing will just come off and put that damaged one away. And same again, we've got a loop-to-loop connection here. We're just gonna pull those. It might be a little bit tight, just give it a wiggle. Pull on one, pull on the other one, and just pull that Depower Main Line all the way off. There's two loops that just slide off the end of the trim line. We'll put that away also. So your new Depower Main Line will come already assembled, but we're just going to take it apart. So we're going to take that new top spinning handle off, and we'll get a piece of meter line around about 1 meter long. We're going to tie that onto the end of the Depower Main Line, just so it's easy to pull it back through later. So now I'm going to pull that from the end with the two loops. Line. Okay, so now we're going to fasten the new Depower Main Line. So just spread those two loops apart, and we're going to feed the bottom of the trim line through there. Now grab the other end, feed that through the loop. Just slide those down and pull it tight. Alright. Now what we can do is put the new Depower Main Line through the bar, through the top hole there, and I'm going to just thread this bit of line up through the cleat base and push the tubing in the end. Okay, so I've got that line. I don't want to pull it all the way through, but I'm now going to connect that to the end of the new Depower Main Line. Just going to tie a figure 8 knot there, and use that line to pull the new tubing all the way back through. So I like to just make sure this little loop of the trim line is actually facing around that way, so it's not going to restrict the landing line. pulling through. But we got a new spinning handle, so let's use the new one. So I'm going to push the landing line tube out, push that line back a bit, and I'm going to use my tool just to pry this little PU insert plastic part out. Just pop that down there for now. This will allow me to take my old spinning handle off. Put that over there as well. And now we're going to put the new one on, lining up the landing line tubing with the large hole in the spinning handle. Alright, so you just want to work this larger landing line tubing through the top of the new spinning handle, and then I'm going to grab my line, just feed that through the smaller hole for the Depower Main Line. So at this stage I'll just push the landing line tubing out a bit more, and we're going to insert the little PU insert again. So we do actually have a little handy jig that we use for this one as well, and like I said with the other jig, we can upload these and put them at the bottom of the video if anyone wants to print them off. Once again, if you don't have a 3D printer or access to that, then you can do this by hand. I find it easiest to do with a pair of needle nose pliers. I just put them in there and use that to press into it. If it's too tight, you can dip it in a bit of hot water. So this is sided, this little PU insert. It has a larger hole and a smaller hole. We want the larger hole to face outwards. So I'm going to push that one down onto my little jig here, and I'm just going to push that down hard on the bench until it seats in. So you want this to be just inside of flush. So this little jig makes it so it's 0.5 millimeter inside and nice and flat there. So once that's in, I can pull that down hard, and that's going to stop that tubing from pulling out. And now I'm ready to put the Depower Main Line on. Okay, how I like to do it is I put a tool through here, which is just something easy to pull on, and I pull that out nice and tight, and then clamp it off with a tool. And I work that around with my thumb until it goes on. We want that to be nice and flush with the handle. Okay, so that's the Depower Main Line back on. I'm just going to push that line through. Now we're ready to put the QR back on. So you'll notice on the top of the shaft there's these little grooves. So we want these grooves to line up with the holes on the spinning handle, and that's also going to be where the knurled pin goes through to hold it all back together. I'll just push that line through. You'll also notice there's a little key on this top spinning handle, and that makes sure that that keys into the right place on the bottom spinning handle also, so it will all go together well. So I'm going to get my little jig again to hold it all together, and just looking down the hole, I like to spin the shaft until I see it's all lined up. It's ready to pop on there. Put the pin in. Take this off, and with my multi-wrench open that up or something to close that up. But you want it to be flush with the edge there. Okay, so that's the QR together. Now all we've got to do is put our landing line back on. Feed that one through there, and put the swivel back through itself. It's really important to make sure that this loop-to-loop connection, there's no twists before you pull it tight. Want that connection to be nice and tight. Then reach above the power bracket, above the red ball, and pull your flying line until the landing line's back up. Now this little power ball here, it actually has a tapered inner, and so when this loop-to-loop connection is loaded, it actually keeps that nice and small together, so when you do need to release your landing line, it'll pull through freely. But that is how to replace your Depower main line and your tubing. And this bar is good to go again.